Please read with me. This is a great parable about an unjust judge being worn out. Then Jesus told them a parable about their need to pray always and not lose heart. He said, "In a certain city there was a judge who neither feared God nor had respect for people. In that city there was a widow who kept coming to him and saying, 'Grant me justice against my opponent.' For a while he refused, but later he said to himself, 'Though I have no fear of God and no respect for anyone, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will grant her justice, so that she may not wear me out by continually coming.' And the Lord said, 'Listen to what the unjust judge says. And will not God grant justice to his chosen ones who cry to him day and night? Will he delay long in helping them? I tell you, he will quickly grant justice to them. And yet, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth?'" The gospel of the Lord. You may be seated. We come into this world with a cry. Although we don't remember that moment, the very first sound we uttered after leaving the warm, protective confines of our mother's womb was a loud cry. We enter wailing. To cry is human. We are born crying. And we don't stop crying after our birth. We continue crying because the world is broken. Failed marriages, cancer, addiction, family dysfunction, relational conflicts, loneliness, depression, abuse, these things make us cry. While tears are part of our humanity, there is an often neglected prayer language in the Bible for our travels through this broken world called the lament. Lament. This is the second part of a two-part sermon on lamenting. If you weren't here last week, you can go catch the first part on our Facebook page, our YouTube channel. There's also a manuscript on our website. Lament. Now, a lament is not the same as crying. It is uniquely Judeo-Christian response to suffering, the lament. And the Bible is full of laments. There's even the book of Lamentations, which is one long lament over the destruction of Jerusalem. Every prophet, except for Haggai, makes an extended lament to God. Over a third of the Psalms are lament psalms. In the Gospels, Jesus lamented over Jerusalem. Jesus lamented in the final hours of his life. Lamenting is different than crying because a lament is focused on God. It's a form of prayer. It's more than just the expression of sorrow or venting emotion. Lamenting talks to God about the pain. And lamenting has a unique purpose: to engender trust, to foster faith. It is a divine given invitation to pour out our fears, our frustrations, our sorrows for the purpose of helping us renew our trust, our faith in God. So we're using the 13th Psalm to illustrate a lament. It's very short, and every lament has 4 elements. So if you would, look in your bulletin. We'll go back and we're going to work through this psalm verse by verse. Follow me with these points. Also, the points are listed here in your bulletin at the sermon. First, the purpose of the lament is to turn us to God. So usually a lament begins with an address to God. See how Psalm 13 begins? Let's read first verse together. "How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me?" The point is that the person in pain chooses to discuss with God, engage God in what is happening. So the first essential element of lament is that it turns us to God. The second element of a lament is that we bring our complaint. God says, bring it on. Every kind of lament features some sort of specific named complaint. Again, back to the psalm. Let's go to verse 2. "How long must I bear pain in my soul and have sorrow in my heart all day long? How long shall my enemy be exalted over me?" So more than a rehashing of our anger, a biblical lament humbly, honestly identifies the pain, names the question, admits the frustrations raging within us. That's the second element of a lament, to bring our complaint directly to God. The third element is to act confidently, boldly, seek God's help while in pain. That is an act of faith. Let's go verses 3 and 4. Can you read those with me? Consider and answer me, O Lord my God. Give light to my eyes, or I will sleep the sleep of death. And my enemy will say, I have prevailed. My foes will rejoice because I am shaken. We know that sorrow can produce a deadly silence as we give in to despair and as we say, there is no hope. Or cause denial and say, yeah, everything's fine. But lamenting invites us to dare to hope in God's promises as we ask for God's help. Element 3 of a lament is to ask boldly, confidently for help from God. And the last element, the fourth element of a lament, is to choose to trust. I mean, that's the ultimate of all our lamenting, is that it leads us to trust. All roads lead to trust. Let's go with the final two verses 5 and 6. But I trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord because he has dealt bountifully. This lament ends with a song of praise. It moves us to renew our commitment to trust in God as we navigate the brokenness of life. Again, choose to trust. So lament is a biblical given prayer language as we live in a world marred by sin and sadness. And so lamenting is how we talk to God about our sorrows and how we renew our hope that God not only listens, but God cares. To cry is to be human. To lament is to be faithful. That's why lament prayers take faith. Talking to God instead of getting sinfully angry or bitter, it requires conviction, it requires faith. Laying out the messy struggles of our souls and then asking for God to intervene, it requires a solid faith base. So lamenting turns us toward God when our troubles are tempted to turn away from God. As people of faith, we know the great long arc of God's plan. Creation, fall, redemption, restoration. Creation, fall, redemption, restoration. And that's why we can read a book like the book of Revelation in the next to final chapter today about the ending of all lamenting. We are reminded how God will wipe away every tear from our eyes, and death shall be no more, and neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, or pain for any more, for the former things have passed away. Therefore, we not only mourn the brokenness of the world, but we also look for a day when there will be no lamenting, when all lamenting will cease. We wonder, how long, O Lord? Now, anyone can cry, but only the people of God can lament with faithfulness. Now, since life is full of sorrow, we should be competent lamenters. We should regularly talk to God about our sorrows and our struggles. We should learn to lament. We should be good at lamenting. One way to start would be to more regularly read Psalms. And I've got them listed there in the bulletin under the sermon slot. Start with the lament Psalms. Psalm 10, 13, 22, 77. Omaha hike. I feel like calling the signals here. But then there's 40 other lament Psalms in the book of Psalms. Over a third of the Psalms are laments. These prayers of sadness, prayers of regret, depression, loss, grief. And you'll find that as you read these Psalms, certain phrases will become your own. You might even identify with a certain song. You'll be surprised how connected you are with the words you are reading. Laments tend to become personal quickly. Another approach as you read the lament Psalms would be to look for each of the four elements that we just discussed. Turning to God, bringing your complaint, asking boldly, choose to trust. Look for those elements in those Psalms. And one final thing you could do is, after you find these elements, is consider writing your own lament using those 4 elements. Tell God about your struggle. Write it down. Remember, each person who wrote a psalm was a real person experiencing real difficulty and expressing real emotions. Writing your own lament can combine your faith with your emotions. Until Jesus returns, life will be marked by tears. Babies will continue to be born, and their first cry will announce their arrival into a broken world. To cry is human. To lament is an act of faith. Amen.